What is up, XRP community? Welcome back to another video. I have a free Telegram group. The link's on the screen. It's just a chat community. It's free to join. Links in the video description below. So if you like XRP and you like crypto, join that chat room. So I have a few excerpts from Brad Garlinghouse on the news, Fox News, a lot of long videos. I'm just going to bring you the alpha from these videos. Also a clip from Jeremy Hogan, the XRP lawyer, gives some really good alpha. I want to start here with the tweet from BitBoy. And as always, if you want to support the channel, hit the like button. I don't know, it's annoying when people ask, but the like button really supports. It really helps the videos do better. So I'm genuinely grateful. Thank you in advance for pressing the like button. XRP is pumping for multiple reasons, but if I were to pinpoint one, the SEC basically gave up this week trying to prove XRP is a security. People in the Ripple community can be pretty confident now the worst case scenario is fine. And we saw that on the price chart, as XRP has had a phenomenal week, right? And it's currently sitting at a resistance of 500 days. If you drew a line, I'll draw a line right here, might as well. From this point up here, about a 500-day resistance line, right? Every time it hits this area, it's bounced down, right? And you can see right here, it's made it through. Now, what you can see when this happens, when there's a big breakthrough, you see how that candle was massive? That huge green candle, because when you break through resistance, you break through like that or you reject, and it was a strong breakthrough. Typically what happens now is it comes back down to here and then goes back up, right? You could see something like this. It's called back testing resistance as support. So you could see XRP coming down back to the 40-cent range before it goes back up to like 90 cents or $1, all right? Good tweet from Blockchain Backer here. It's just something to be aware of. Crypto's only 12 years old, right? And there's been bear markets and bull markets in crypto, but for the past 12 years, the global financial landscape has not had a bear market, right? This is the first bear market for the macroeconomy that crypto's ever seen. So this could be a more interesting, longer bear market for crypto. And Blockchain Backer links the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right? The stock market. He says without some kind of giant ramp up before the daily and weekly candle closes for the Dow Jones, which is today, we may be witnessing the start of the Great Depression before our very eyes. You see right here, this 29.5K, this is the last zone of support. We break that, stocks aren't going to do too well. When stocks don't do too well, crypto does very bad. Another thing I want to talk about, and this is a little bit conspiratorial, but it's kind of interesting. So this is a shmita year, okay? 2021 to 2022, it's a shmita year. The shmita year is called the Sabbath year, also called the sabbatical year. It's the 7th year of the 7-year agricultural cycle mandated in the Torah, the holy book of the Jews. Okay, so we're in a shmita year. Look at the amount of financial disasters that have occurred during shmita years. In 1916, 40% of the US stock market was wiped out. The German, Austro-Hungarian, Russian, and Otto empires collapsed. And Britain, the world's greatest empire, was almost bankrupt. 1930, 86% of the U.S. stock market was wiped out. The worst financial crisis ever, the Great Depression. 1937, 50% of the U.S. stock market was wiped out. World War II begins. 1944, World War II ended. 1972, 48% of the U.S. stock market wiped out, global recession. 1979, a severe recession in the U.S. 1986, 33% of the U.S. stock market wiped out. 1993, bond market crashed. 2000, 37% of the U.S. stock market was wiped out, Twin Towers were hit. 2007, we young people know about this, the global recession, the housing market, 50% of the U.S. stock market wiped out. 2014, sharp fall in share markets at the end of the year. Now we're in 2022, stocks are not doing too well. I just found this interesting. Of course, this is a religion, a little bit of an allegory, if that's the right word, but consistency doesn't lie, and these years tend to not do too well. All right, so I just thought that was interesting. I want to talk about that. And now 2 quick clips from Jeremy Hogan's recent video.
Tell you that the SEC is very focused only on the facts about this case. In other words, if the SEC wins, it will only win this case. It's very fact specific. But if Ripple wins, oh boy, The argument is so broad that it could hamstring the SEC in everything it does from this day forward.
So the argument in this case is very fact specific, like he said, and what the SEC is arguing in terms of unregistered securities is very general, right? So if this is a bad lawsuit for them, they get a bad ruling, that's a negative precedent, good for crypto going forward, but because the lawsuit is so general, this could backfire if the SEC doesn't have a favorable outcome. All right, next part right here.
Despite all of the discussion about this by Attorney John Deaton and lately by the Digital Chamber of Commerce, nowhere in the SEC motion for summary judgment does it argue that XRP is inherently a security. In fact, the SEC's brief is laser focused on Ripple's sales and marketing of XRP, and that Ripple's actions alone are what made the sales of that a security. Look.
So they aren't arguing it's exactly a security, they're arguing the way that Ripple marketed it and sold it is a security.
Look at the SEC's table of contents, page 4 and 5. Just looking at the headlines, headline 1, Ripple offered and sold investment contracts. Headline 2, defendants violated Section 5 when they offered and sold XRP in a public distribution. That's all the SEC is really arguing, and that is not an argument that XRP is per se a security.
Right, so the lawsuit started out, XRP is a security, blah, blah, blah. Now they're starting to backpedal a bit. And now I have a clip from CNBC, right? Mainstream media. Brad Garlinghouse is on here. It's a long 20-minute video. I have the points, the timestamps that I want to show you though. All right, starting here.
Ripple doesn't know who bought the XRP. The people who bought the XRP don't necessarily know Ripple. You have to remember that 99.9% of XRP trading has nothing to do with Ripple, the company. So when you talk about, okay, XRP is a security, I go back to something I said years ago when this started. A security of what company? Of what, like, who is the owner? So I think it's very clear there is no investment contract. If you get past the investment contract, which I think is hard, across the Howey test, you also don't have, you have to meet all 3 prongs. And in the case of the XRP case, you can't meet all 3 prongs for sure. And so we think that the judge will see that the law is very clear. We think the facts are very clear, and we think this is just a gross overreach of the SEC trying to wrest control.
A gross overreach. Couldn't really put it better myself. And now he says some stuff about Ripple's past year. Listen to the amount of growth. Keep in mind, this lawsuit has been ongoing, but Ripple is not stopping by any means. And listen to how many people they're hiring this year.
Rules, like they're like competing bills on Capitol Hill, but nothing has been passed yet. So, I mean, do you still feel that there is just a very amorphous space in terms of regulatory clarity in the U.S.?
I do, and I think that the vast majority of people I know in the crypto industry, they want to follow the rules of the road, but we need to provide clarity on what the rules of the road are here in the United States. Ripple, frankly, will hire north of 300 people this year, and we'll do more of that outside the United States, and our growth is 95% from customers outside the United States.
Right, the growth from Ripple is 95% outside of the United States. Look at those regions like Asia and stuff. Even though this lawsuit overshadows Ripple a lot right now, Ripple's doing 95% of its business outside of the U.S.
And it's partly because the rules of the road are clear in those countries. Way back when I first got involved with technology in the late 90s, the government took the step to
All right, and now I'm going to fast forward a bit to this part.
Well, so I do think, as you say, I think it's a pretty bellwether case at this point. And we talked about, the Howey test is this Orange Grove Supreme Court case from the 40s. I think that the Ripple test may be what we look at in the future. And, there are a lot of facts and circumstances that can be unique. But for Ripple and what the SEC is trying to do, I do think it's just the SEC trying to overreach the statute. And again, Congress gives the SEC power. The SEC can't just go take power.
Congress has to give the SEC power. SEC is trying to do this regulatory by enforcement approach, but at the end of the day, the SEC can't make laws. They need guidance from Congress. And this was a really interesting part. Brad talks about the notes from the SEC Ethereum meeting when they determined Ethereum was not a security. And get this, he says Ripple's been asking the judge in this lawsuit multiple times for these SEC notes on Ethereum. Listen to how many times they've asked the judge, and the judge has ordered the SEC to produce these notes. The judge has ordered it. Listen to how many times the judge has ordered these notes to come forward. And then ask yourself, why is the SEC not coming forward with the notes on Ethereum after the judge has asked this many times?
Months. The judge in our case, she has ordered the SEC to turn over the notes in that case 5 times. We still don't have those notes. And
5 times. The judge has ordered they turn over the notes 5 times, and they still don't have the notes. I don't know how that's legally possible, but it is. And then she asked about Ripple's plans for an IPO, and he says, yeah, basically that's a good next step. But listen to the numbers on Ripple's growth that he talks about.
The crypto landscape, that is not really true for Ripple. We had a record Q2. We continue to grow, signing up more customers. Volume, we publicly shared that volume on RippleNet grew around 10x year on year through our core product called on-demand liquidity. And so
the core product, XRapid on-demand liquidity that uses the XRP token, grew 1,000% this year. That's crazy .com internet type growth.
I remain very optimistic about the future of Ripple, and I think once we get past this, accessing.
And then one more. Listen to how much cash Ripple has on the balance sheet.
And so we certainly look at these cycles that the crypto markets have gone through as opportunities. This is really the third downturn crypto winter that I have been around Ripple for, and each time Ripple has kind of emerged stronger. And so we look at it as an opportunity to continue to grow and make sure we're solving customer problems, make sure the customers who are already dependent upon us can depend upon us for more things potentially. So we'll continue to look at opportunities and some of the assets we see around.
At all considering buying the business outright.
Well, we are in a very strong position. We have a very strong balance sheet. I think we've publicly shared we have about $1 billion of cash on the balance.
They have $1 billion in cash on their balance sheet. So Ripple's extremely liquid. They have tons of money. During these downturns, they have opportunities to acquire companies, make their business more robust and strong. $1 billion on the balance sheet. SEC is not winning this one. And now I want to wrap it up with this clip of Brad Garlinghouse on Fox Business News recently talking about the SEC. If you guys are still watching, comment peanut butter below. You've made it 11 minutes into the video. Watching the video to the end helps the channel a lot, so I'm genuinely grateful. Thank you. Let yourselves be known. If you're still watching, comment peanut butter. All right, I love you guys.
Jamie Dimon called crypto a decentralized Ponzi scheme yesterday before Congress. Why don't you react?
I read that. Look, I think very notable people, including Jamie Dimon, have called it a fraud. Warren Buffett, I think, had some negative comments.
Right.
Look, I think we've reached a point where we know this industry is not going away. It's here to stay. You're talking about $1 trillion of value. And I think ultimately these things, as we've talked about here on the show before, are going to be measured by what utility, what problem are you solving. And so, for him to call it a Ponzi scheme, there's 50 million people here in the United States who have direct exposure to crypto that might disagree with him.
Well, let's get to XRP because the Twitterverse is going nuts over your appearance right now on Fox Business with Charlie. And XRP, of course, the native coin to the Ripple. Tell me exactly why you think that this jump in price is happening. What news can you give us?
Look, it's hard to know. Honestly, I've watched crypto now. I've been in the business at Ripple for 7.5 years. I've been in crypto for about 9 years. It's really hard to know. What I would point to is a couple things. Before the SEC got involved
with you guys,
with us and ETH, because again, there's two factors here. One, XRP was the second most valuable digital asset ahead of ETH, and then around 2018 was a kind of a famous, now infamous speech that kind of anointed
Bill
ETH
Hinman of the corporation finance.
And so, look, I think increasingly as the summary judgment filings were made public, people realized that maybe the SEC really is overreaching. They really aren't following a kind of faithful allegiance to the law. That's a quote from the judge in this case. And so I think people are realizing that, the
judge said that it might be. They might not be, right?
No, but the judge said is, one, the SEC is being hypocritical.
Yes.
And two, they said that they were not following a faithful allegiance to the law in pursuit of an outcome. And I think that's what we have here. The SEC, I think, has kind of lost its way. I said yesterday on stage, I think it's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
I was going to ask you that. I mean,
I just think we have to remember the SEC gets its power from statutes passed by Congress. Congress gives the SEC power. The SEC can't just take power. What the power says today, for the 1933 Securities Act, said that you have to have an investment contract. So as you'll see in our motion for summary judgment, the first step of determining could XRP be a security is you have to have an investment contract. And our point is Ripple doesn't have a contract. With whom is the contract? It's not a written contract, it's not an oral contract, it's not an implicit contract.
So where we are right now in the case?
So the summaries for the motions for summary judgment were just filed last week. They were made public on Saturday, which I'll mention very briefly. We had agreed with the judge and with the SEC to release those on Monday. They jumped the gun. And it's just this constant, I think, disrespect to the court process,
right,
which we've seen time and time again. The judge in this case has ruled 5 different times that the notes associated with that infamous speech we're talking about should be turned over to Ripple.
And they didn't
we
want to
still
do
don't
it.
have them.
Isn't that just crazy? 5 times the judge has ruled that the notes regarding the SEC on Ethereum haven't been released. That's just absolutely crazy. That's all I got for you guys. Make sure you join the Telegram chat group. It's free. If you like talking crypto, it's in the video description below. It's like Discord, but a lot safer. Join the Telegram. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the bell next to the subscribe button so you never miss an update. YouTube doesn't always update you. And yeah, God bless you guys. Have a great Sunday. Have a great start to your week tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your families. Until next time.